Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's April the 8th. This will be our chart lesson for today. There were a lot of entries today. Early on, it was pretty difficult early on because there weren't any really clear. It really was a trading range, and the only real clue is it started out so bearish, and it looked like it was going to be real bullish, and it actually took two legs up. I'll explain that in a minute, what I think I saw it after the fact, but I didn't really see it as much when it was going on. But the only clue you had is prices are swinging back and forth across the EMA, and really all you could do was just trade these shorter term trend lines and trend channels. That was just almost the only way to do it. This one was pretty clear, and this was a good opportunity to make some money. This one was not so clear. If you drew your line off the first two swings and drug it down, it didn't really fit at first, but we got an overshoot, and then we got an equal overshoot to the other side, which was a break, and then we went to a new low, and this got really bearish right in here, so it's kind of interesting. But it was just a tough day early on until this trend started. Then we just had another trading range up here. So I looked at this really as a trading range, mostly trading range, even though this was a downtrend. And at the very least, when we were working our way down from this leg, from here, that should have been your target. And you see we overshot that, which that would have been back down here at the bottom, which I was looking at that as possibly as being the low of the range, with this maybe being a midline early on. But I believe we spent most of the time inside here with this little break, and then we got back inside and we broke out, and we just ended the day up in this upper range. And again, we started swinging back and forth from each side to the EMA, and that's really your clue you got to be careful of. When you start seeing that, you know that it's kind of a range, and the only thing you can really do is draw these shorter term trend lines. As you can see, every one of them pretty much worked. Sometimes it'll catch you a little off guard, but for the most part they work, and they keep you on the right side. And I know some other people have started to pick this up and get this because they've sent me emails saying, hey, it's helped them keep them on the right side. It's helped them make money and helped them keep them out of bad trades. And so I know other people are picking it up, so that's good. Keep working on it. The more you do this, the easier it gets. And I'll be honest, this was not an easy day, especially early on. From this point on, it was pretty obvious. This was not so bad, and this range was really, most of the day was right across here, and we did break outside. Um, so I would call it there. But if you look, there's actually pretty close to a measured move from this part of the range up to this part, and you can see that's almost perfect, really. I mean, and so once we broke higher, that's kind of what I was looking at for a target up there, and we met that pretty closely. But it didn't matter because this kept you in most of that time, and then we just went into this trading range. Well, let's talk about the trades. Um, I didn't see it really early on myself. Normally I will not look at the price action into the other day other than to look at previous support and resistance, and you can see this support right across here. Probably started with it right here, and that might have got you into this trade. But something else that I looked at here that I normally would not look at was when we started this leg down, it looked like we were going to try to make another leg, and then we bounced. And so that kind of threw me off there a little bit. But if you look at this leg, there's leg one down, and then we had the correction, and then leg two, and you can see it's really close, almost a perfect measured move, especially if you use the closes. It is a perfect measured move. And sometimes you'll get those little extra moves in the overnight, and this was like early yesterday afternoon, really. So I believe that to be the two moves. There's two legs in the middle, which that might have been one clue. Oops, didn't mean to do that. And then notice the two legs here, and then there's a two-legged correction here, and then we moved higher. So, once you kind of start to see the pattern, it makes it a little easier. And once we started up here, of course, Draw leg one like so, and then look for leg two to be similar. And you can see it's a perfect measured move for the most part. And then once we got leg one down, and notice the two legs correction, and you can measure those, and they're going to be really close. And then and you can see we overshot that. The market was kind of weak there. So, but if you measure this two legs, there's leg one, then your little correction in there, and there's leg two, and it came up a tad short, not by much. But only really, like I said, the only really way to stay on this was to draw your trend channel lines and follow the rules, and they tend to hold. But early on we had this coming down, and we had we did have a close outside right here, depending on how you drew it. You know, but I don't know if that's close enough. So I was looking for a new low here, but we couldn't make one, and we tried to break lower here and turned up. But that's when you're thinking, hey, maybe this is a trading range. And this is real aggressive because this is a strong move down, and we did get a break outside and a move back to test it and turned up. And that's for a bar to reverse like that. Let me move that out of the way, and let's make this a little bigger. But notice how prices broke lower and reversed and closed on this very high. The odds are we're coming back to this EMA even if we're going lower, and so that's a big reversal type bar. So when prices broke above that, it didn't take me just a second. So that's an aggressive trade, and you're taking a chance of counter trend trading after a move like that. But if you saw the two legs down, then it's not quite as aggressive. But I don't know, I just didn't catch it myself, so it caught me a little off guard. This turned out to be a nice move up, and then we kind of overshot the upper side, and then we got our break. And I really think people were thinking of another leg down here for a minute, but notice how it's really struggling to go down, and then it bounces right there. But if you draw this trend line right here, you got a little break right in here, a little close outside, and then a move to a new low, and then it reversed. So okay, I got interrupted there, and it's been probably 20 minutes or so. I think we were talking about this trade since this has moved. There's a little channel. This was really the first break of this line, and we just came back and kind of tested that same area where this trade. Notice that you'll see that quite a bit. This pullback just enough to take out all these entries that happen right here, and then it rockets up for the next leg, and that's common. You'll see that quite a bit. There's just no freebies in this market. It's very efficient. But notice that's the first break. So you're looking for prices to go to a new high. This is not the greatest setup. It's not even a very good setup. The only thing is that prices traded way down here and turned up, and it didn't quite close on its high. But when it broke higher than this bar, if you could get in with a limit order, I like that trade. It's a little aggressive. Again, it's not really clear that there's been a trend line break. There was a close outside here. This is probably a little bit steeper here than the way I have it drawn. It's probably more like that right there. Sometimes as you narrow in and make it closer, you can see that does fit a little bit better on the closes and so forth. And you get the close outside here, a move to a new low, and then a reversal. And it broke lower here and traded all the way back up here. I would have liked it better if it would have went on past these two highs right here on this same bar. I would have just used a stop to enter that. But the way it is, you just about have to use a limit order. You could have used a stop and it would have worked, but it's too risky to try to do that. If you use a stop, it did work, but I just think it's too risky. I think you have to let it break above and then drop a limit order. And if it didn't look like it was going to come back, you could have eased it up a little bit and try to get in just a little bit higher, but it takes off pretty quick after that. And then of course you get the break of this little channel right here, but now you got to notice those two legs up, and you get the break here and a move to a new high, and guess where that new high is? It's right there at those previous closes, and you get that little double matching high and one tick higher, and I like that. for a turn down right there. Uh, I don't even think that one's very aggressive because it's clear those are two legs up and it's a clear break right there. And you got the double top matching high and it breaks higher. And you know you're coming back to the EMA. You don't necessarily know it's going to fall straight down like that. Um, but you know it's probably coming back to the EMA and there's plenty of room there. So I like that trade. Of course, this one takes off. These two trades, if you know, by being aggressive, you see they paid off really well. Um, but, you know, I just thought they were aggressive. And I went really back and forth about making this one aggressive. But this one's real obvious that it broke the trend line. And this is looks like and prices are swinging on both sides of the EMA now. And even though these are some nice moves, and there was some news this morning around, trying to remember when the first news came out. I think it was right around 9 o'clock. So it came out in here. And that's probably what kind of sent this thing. You know, people just didn't really know what to make of it early. Turns out it was bearish, and then they took it all right back, which is pretty, you know, fairly common that news items that send off on a big move will almost always take it back, and so that would be another clue to be aware of this move back up here. Let's finish talking about, we talked about this trade. I like this one because on a big picture, this is first entry pullback. It's a second entry short on a larger picture there. And it almost is really, even on this chart. Notice there's no breaks all the way up until right there. And there's only one little break right here that's that trap. So it's almost a second entry no matter how you look at it. So, but it's a double top at a strong resistance area. And you're way away from the EMA. It's a little bitty doji. Chance to get in with a lot of room back to the EMA. And again, you don't know that it's going to do this, but it does. And here, originally I had a much tighter like this. And so this was the first break. And, you know, you're looking for a reason to come down no matter whether you drew it like this. But after we got this swing here, I used this swing. And that gave you the measured overshoot on both sides, and you can see that, and you can see how it came back into play down here. So I think this one's right, but even if you played it this way, you still had your two-legged correction and a second entry short here, first break of a trend line. So I like that one. It bounced pretty quickly, and then you get you really had a second entry short here, but correction wise, with it pulling back, this was the first pull back, so that was really your more important entry right there. And it actually didn't break lower till right here. Notice that it just made another little inside bar, and that's nice move down. And then it tries to correct again. So now you got a failed second entry short right here, and it looked like that was going to fail, but we didn't quite have a new low. But when it turned up again and turned down, you could have considered even going short right there. I don't like that one as much as because it's too close now to down here to this support that we bounced on several times. You see it did hesitate there before it went on through. And I even looked at this one. There may be, this could be this may just be a median line right here. And so I looked at this both ways, and that was another reason I kind of like these last couple of trades here, because it's very possible this is a median line. You can see it fits fairly well there, but it doesn't account for this overshoot. So I really believe that this was just your channel right here, and you had an overshoot, and then your first break of it, and your move to a new low. And of course, it not only moves to a new low, it moves to a very strong new low, and gets back inside this channel, but then it reverses out. I think it's too dangerous to enter down here because now you've got your new low in, and that's a first entry. And that's, you know, sometimes you got to watch trades like this go by, because yesterday somebody asked me about a trade that looked very similar, and they took it, but I think their trade looked more like this. We'd already rocketed higher, and then they're trying to get short. When you need to be thinking about getting long, because now you've had your break of your trend line, your new low, and you got your reversal pattern. Notice how this thing goes right through the EMA. It's higher than this last swing, and it's really a two-legged pull back to the EMA. There's pullback, first entry, pullback. There's a second entry long right there. It's not a great bar, and we're still below the former support across here. So, it's a little bit aggressive, but it is a two-legged pullback. I think most of your aggressive traders are going to take that because there's a failed second entry short as well. And so it's a trap, and it takes on off. And then there's a breakout pullback long, and there's also a failed second entry short counting from here. Coming up, first entry, pullback, second entry. And you can see that. You got a failed second entry long. It's back, plus it's a retest of the former support that holds and turns up. And, you probably want to use a limit order here. Because it is a trap, though, you can use a stop, and it would have worked. It pulls back and would have filled in limit orders, and then it turns up. Plus, there's a little trap. Notice that those three matching lows right across there is a little trap, and then it turns up. Just go long above that. Easy move. It pulls back again. This is when people always ask me, when is it okay to take a first entry? It's almost always better to wait on second entry, but if you get a channel that's this tight, you're not going to get a second entry. There's not room. So you just have to take every pullback, and really you could have even considered taking this one, and I'm probably just going to go ahead and make that one green, but let me explain why. It's the same repeat pattern as that almost, except you're back up here at these highs, and there's a good chance it hits and turns down. So, but some of your more aggressive traders may take that one, and it would have worked. And then you get a break here, and look at that. You break above this, but that's the first break of that channel, and it bounces. It tests that twice, and then look at that reversal bar. And if you used anything other than a stop, if you tried to put your limit order to see if that got filled, you got left behind. And I tried to use a limit order here and got left behind on that one, just be honest. So if you had to slide it up, if you put it in there and it started taking, but it never came back to even fill it hardly. So it bounced around there once or twice and it was gone. So if you didn't take that stop right there, you missed that trade. Or at least put a limit order where the stop would have gone. And off it goes. It makes a new high, a little double top. I don't think you can go short right there, even though you got a break. Sometimes you get two legs up, and the measured move that you're looking for is up here, based on this being a range, is up here. So I think you can't really take that first entry, although there's some people that might take it. There's still room to get back to the EMA. You have had your break, but it's too big a chance it break turns down and turns right back up. But you get a second entry right here, and it's right off that, and what I did was draw that line right there and pull it up, and that's right where it turns. And then you get a failed second entry long there. It's getting back close to here, so I went back and forth about that one, but it would have worked out. It took it a minute to work on down, and then it comes out of there. You actually have a little bit of a break here, and then it's really two legs down to a new low. Originally I had that a little bit higher, and I wasn't sure if there was a break, but you still see there's a close there if you really narrow in. It's real picky, but that's all you got. That's all you got on a day like this, and so you got to go with it. And then you're coming up, and I didn't know whether I should be looking for a new low here or if I should be looking for prices to go up. But so you just sit tight, but then you get a little short trap. First entry, notice the new low, you're pulling back, first entry, pull back, second entry, it fails, and look at that little reversal bar off the EMA. So I like that one, and it was just enough to get your scalp, and then it makes a double top and turns down. And you came back and you tested this low down here twice more, and you get another reversal bar, so I like going long right there, and off it goes. And by this time, this is looking, I actually had this line way down here at that point. So this is looking like a trading range, and you're bouncing off that's another reason I like this trade right here. you got a new high here. You tested it once, you tested it twice, and usually what happens, you're headed to the other side, and you come down here and you test this low once, you test it twice, it bounces, and this time it goes right on through. And then again, you've got kind of a measured move up here, and you got this little trend line working down, and so you really can't go long here on this second entry. You could, but it's not a smart move, obviously. And so I just, you just about have to sit tight, and then you get the trap. Look at that bearish bar. And this one, you could use a stop or the limit order and just put it right at the top, and boom, it bounces back. Because it closed here and opened one, so there was that little gap. And those are the kind I generally like to drop my little limit order in, and then boom, off it goes. And this is a failed second entry long, so that was a nice trap, and you can see it trap people. And that was the last trade I marked. And so this was not, from here on, it wasn't too bad, because you can clearly see that's a trading range. Prices flipping back and forth. You got a double top, you got a double bottom here. Might have originally had that a little bit lower. But it's really just a retest of this double top here, and that's what generally happens. What was resistance becomes support, and that's how it works. And what was support down here starts trying to act as resistance from underneath, but it can't hold, and it gets back in and goes higher. So, but it was pretty tough this morning early, but from about 9:30 on, this was a nice move up. And then you just went to you got the break, and then you went to a trading range, and that was really it. And all you could do is just kind of draw your lines and follow your little trends from one side of the range to the other. And you can see I even drew these here, and they're still working. So that's all you can do is draw those short-term trend lines, and they work great. They're a lot easier to see after the fact than they are during the trading. That's definitely a fact. But just draw them the best you can, and if they're holding, you can see this one was pretty obvious. I mean, it's holding prices neatly until it starts to, then it starts to suddenly can't get to the high. It has a break, and then it moves, and that's what reversals will look like. You don't always see that. It could have still touched the high and then had your break, but generally, a big trend that's moving like this, you'll start to see it start to wane over, and it can't get back up to the previous trend channel line or something of that nature. And then you could even see it on this one. Look at it, how it's moving up, and then suddenly it leans over a little bit, makes a break, move to a new high, and then it sells off. And so that's kind of how it works and what you'll see. So not much else you can say, and I'm running late today. It's almost 5 o'clock while I'm just doing this video. So I'm going to wrap this up and get it uploaded. Hope you had a good day. I hope you read it maybe better than I did. I just kind of sat there and watched more than I probably wanted to early on, and because this was kind of difficult to figure out over here, and so I know I struggled with it a little bit. And the thing to do, I always say this, but people tend to miss it. Anytime you're not sure what's going on, just sit tight and don't do anything. And that's why a lot of these traps will be easy, because you're just sitting there waiting on something, and suddenly you see the trap, and hey, now I'm glad I sat tight and didn't get fooled and waited on the trap, and then you catch a move like that right there, or maybe a move like that, or this move right here. By sitting tight and not being antsy to get long here, you catch this short, and it's a great setup. And you can see that. I mean, look at that bearish bar, and it closes, and you could have just used a stop there, whatever. And you don't catch those if you're jumping in and eager to get in, because you're probably going to go long with the rest of them when it broke higher, and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to miss it. But if you're not sure what's going on, just sit tight, because that'll open up a lot of traps to you. It will also open up a lot of opportunities to see stuff that you wouldn't see, because once you're in a trade, it's a lot harder to see the reversals and the traps. You're hoping and wishing that, you're on the right side, and it just clouds your mind, and you miss a lot of important things. So anytime you're unsure, do not trade. Just sit and wait, and something will come along. But if you're too eager to get in, you're going to miss the best trades because you're too busy looking for an entry that's not really there. So I hope that makes sense, but that's my words of wisdom that I try to get out there as much as I can, is that anytime you're not sure, I mean, it's pretty obvious about this channel. It's hard to misread that one. If you didn't get that channel, you got issues. This channel was very hard to figure out, but even if so, you probably should have been trading off the trading range. And you can see there's kind of a range right there, and you had a little failed break here and about a measured move here that's equal to that first move, and then you get another break here. And but for the most part, prices were stuck in this little range right in here, and it actually moved up a little. And so that's what I was looking at when all this was going on. Um, and so that was another reason this trade, once, if you didn't enter below on the failed second entry long, then you might have really hesitated to enter on those others, and you probably would have missed that trade. So always draw your lines because it makes it look much clearer. And if it's not clear and you're not sure what's going on, just sit on the sidelines. That's my famous words of wisdom, because if you're not sure what's going on and you're entering, guess what? You're a gambler. If you're reading the price action right and you're following the rules, the odds are on your side, and you're not really gambling, you're playing the odds, which are in your favor. And there's a whole lot of difference between playing the odds when they're in your favor and just taking wild guesses and gambling, because when you take those wild guesses, you're going to be wrong most of the time. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.